Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Beth. I am a 37-year-old attorney living in the DC area with my husband. And for today's video, I'm going to be doing a swatch video of the new Pat McGrath Labs Mini Eyeshadow Palette Midnight Voyage. So, as you'll see from my hands here, this is quite a tiny little palette. This is a new, I think, limited edition launch from Pat McGrath that is available at Sephora. And before I get into the content of this video, I'll just quickly say that I have the sous vide going in the kitchen next door. So if you hear any kind of like water fountain type noises, that is what that is. And there's either someone doing some sort of cross training or a small child upstairs that's doing a lot of running around. So if you hear any noises, that is what that is. And I will have timestamps, so if you want to jump ahead to a particular section, you can reference those down below. Okay, so this is the packaging. As you can see, it's Pat McGrath's packaging that she does for some of her other products, but this one does not have any sequins in it, which for me is a benefit. I'll go ahead and cut this open. I think I've said in some other videos that my conspiracy theory is that she does these types of packaging because it makes it a little bit harder to return, but anyway. So this is what it looks like, and again, just for, scale purposes, it is quite petite. So this does retail for $29, and I'll do some price comparisons and that kind of thing. As far as I can tell, this is only available at Sephora. It's not available on the Pat McGrath website, but it says on the Sephora website that this limited edition mini palette stars 5 of Pat McGrath Labs' most beloved eyeshadows, complemented by debut metallic bronze Venus. The 6 ultra pigmented shades deliver maximum payoff and long-lasting artistry in a single swipe. With a compact size and user-friendly layout, it's a major must-have for creating legendary looks at home and on the go. So this is a plastic component. I love the design. It has this kind of sunray effect that she's done with some other packaging and this kind of motif around the edges. So personally, I think it's a really attractive little palette. And on the back here, it says the total weight is 3 grams. Zoom in a bit here. So the Sephora website is a little misleading. I think it says like 6 times 0.1 ounces. Just pull it up here. Yeah, so you'll see here, this is the app description. So it says 6 times 0.1 ounces / 3 grams. But the actual palette here, the net weight is 0.10 ounces or 3 grams. So it does give you the layout of the shades, which is nice. And it does say that it is made in Italy and it has an 18-month shelf life. So looking at the package here, again, it has the net weight, and then it does have all of the ingredients. Again, it says made in Italy, 18-month shelf life. It kind of gives you an idea of what the palette looks like in case you were, I guess, grabbing this in the store. And this palette does contain carmine and talc, like the original shades. So I'll go ahead and open this for you. I haven't opened this yet, so this is going to be interesting. Okay, so nice sized mirror there. It just has a little plastic sheet like so, and it does actually open flat, which I think can be handy. Also stays upright though. So those are what the shadows look like, and although they are small, I'll just grab, this is a rougher number 2 brush. So I think given the shape, like, you shouldn't have any difficulty getting a brush in any of these shades. I don't think they're so tiny that they would be kind of hard to use. If you saw my Instagram, I did a little comparison shot of this packaging next to like an old school Polly Pocket, which I don't have any of those to kind of compare it to, but the color and the overall size generally kind of gave me that vibe. So I thought that was kind of funny, but I think, you know, it is really pretty still. So when I do swatch these shades, I will be comparing the 3 shades in here to the sort of original release of them in the Bronze Seduction palette. So I'll zoom out a bit there, and then this is the Bronze Seduction palette. So this is a Mothership palette. It's kind of Pat's like most, I think, well-known form factor as far as eyeshadow. Okay, and you can kind of see here that the 3 shades here, I think, are the same as these 3 shades here. So she even kind of kept the same layout there. So I will be kind of swatching those side by side. This one is Skin Show Divine Glow. This one is Entrapment. And then this one is Extreme Aubergine. This, I believe, is the new shade, which is, I think it's Bronze Venus. It's interesting because I think looking at the palette here, I think she actually renamed that shade maybe. So on this one, it says it's Sunset Bronze. Right there. These 3 here are from the Bronze Seduction palette, and then we have shade 5 is Eleganza, and that is from Divine Rose 2, and then 6 is Night Creature, and that is from Subversive. So it's interesting that, like, on the Sephora website, you can see it says it's complemented by the debut metallic Bronze Venus, but then down here it does say Sunset Bronze, so I was very confused when I was kind of reviewing this, but yeah, it looks like it kind of has 2 different names depending on what you're looking at. But on the actual packaging, it is Sunset Bronze. So as I mentioned, you are getting a lot of repeat shades in this palette, but if you don't have any of the motherships, this would be, I think, a good way to try out Pat's formula pending, you know, the result of the swatches. I will say that I don't think any of these shades are what people refer to as the special shades, so like this quad here. So just be aware of that, but for $29, I think this is at a really good price point, especially if you are traveling or you just want to keep everything contained in a small makeup bag. I think this would give you some good options, and I wouldn't be surprised. You can see here we have the mini eyeshadow palette Midnight Voyage, so I wouldn't be surprised if she comes out with other little palettes like this. So it may be superfluous for you, especially if you're only getting that one new shade and you already have all of the motherships. But if you didn't want to shell out, I think these motherships are now $128, I think I saw. So almost $100 more than this little guy. And obviously there's a huge kind of size difference here. And these are, you know, very heavy weighted palettes, but I think, like a lot of people have said, you wouldn't necessarily want to travel with these just because of the weight, and also, I guess, in case you lost them or they were broken, you know, that's a lot of money that you've kind of wasted there. So with this palette, you are getting, it looks like 10 times 1.32 grams, or a net weight of 0.047 ounces. So that doesn't really make sense for me, to be honest. I think it's generally easier to compare grams. So I think this means that there are over 10 grams of product. What is 10 times 1.32? Okay, so 13.2 versus 3. So you're getting over 4 times the amount of product in this palette, and you're also getting 10 shades as opposed to 6. I thought I would also compare some other Pat McGrath palettes and their price points just for sake of comparison. So I picked up this one a few months ago. This says it has a total weight of 6.6 grams, so roughly half the size of this and twice the size of this. And this would retail for $65. This is another 6-pan palette. Has a cardboard package. Does have a mirror. There is a fair bit of wasted space in there, but anyway. I think this one is sold out unless they restock it, but the like Bridgerton 2 palette that they released is still available, I believe. So that was one option, and then I also have a Pat McGrath quad. I think the size of these can kind of fluctuate, and I think I got this one on sale. So this has 4.4 grams, so a little bit more than this one. I don't know if that works out to like 30% more, that kind of thing. But this was the Bronze Borealis quad, and I think her quads retail for about $58. This also has that kind of black packaging. It does have a magnetic closure, does have a mirror, and then it has the 4 shades inside like so. And then the last one I have, and I think one of the first Pat McGrath palettes I purchased, was the most similar in price. So this was a 5-pan little palette. It's kind of, you know, cheap plastic. And this says it's 5 times 1 gram. So you were getting more product. In this one, you were getting 2 more grams, it looks like. And this was originally $28, so roughly the same price as this, you know, especially when you account for inflation. It's now half off on the Pat McGrath website for $14. This one doesn't have a mirror, as you can see. And this is an all shimmer or metallic palette, so I never really bonded with this one, to be honest. It does have her logo and everything in gold, but I think, you know, especially considering the wasted space in this palette and the mirror that you have in this one, I think this one is definitely an improvement in terms of being travel friendly. So I kind of feel some grooves in this gold, which may make it a little bit more kind of long-lived in terms of the embossing. I think it's possible that it could wear off if you have it in a makeup bag or whatever, but yeah, I think, you know, this to me doesn't feel cheap. It just feels kind of cute. So it's definitely not as like luxurious as this kind of packaging is, but, you know, like I've said, I don't think you necessarily want to travel with this either. All right, so that's it for Pat McGrath in terms of comparisons. One of the reasons why I thought this was a very smart release is that it kind of puts it in the realm of these Natasha Denona minis, which I have collected quite a few of. I guess I kind of think of Natasha Denona as being one of Pat McGrath's kind of direct competitors when it comes to more high-end eyeshadow. So these retail for, I think, $25 currently. And let's see. I think this one is 5 times 0.8 grams. Break out the calculator again. So that's 4 grams. So you're getting a little bit more product, but you're getting 1 less shade. And those Natasha Denona minis don't have a mirror. Yeah, I just held up the mirror to kind of see what it looked like when I was looking directly into it. And I think it's definitely workable to do an eye look. It's maybe not what I would prefer, but I think it's definitely usable. Yeah, whether you prefer the Pat McGrath or the Natasha Denona is kind of your call, but I just think for kind of an entry point into Pat McGrath, I think it was smart for her to release those. And I also saw some people compare this mini to the Huda palettes. So these retail for basically the same price, so $29. And this one, I think you're getting close to 10 grams worth of product, if I'm reading this correctly. I know a lot of people have kind of compared the mini or smaller Huda palettes to her larger ones and have said that her mini ones aren't as good. These are also made in China, so I have the gold and the ruby. And these do have, this one anyway, has a cardboard package. I think this gold one was limited edition, so I'm not sure if you can still get it, but this one is also slightly larger, this gold packaging. So That is the gold palette. It does have a mirror. It's not magnetic. And then this one is the ruby palette. It's cardboard, also has a mirror. And those are the shades. So you do get 9 as opposed to 6. So I'm not really going to delve into what I think is worth it or not. It's kind of up to you, but I just wanted to show you in terms of a cost and size comparison. Okay, so let's talk about swatching this palette. So normally what I do with my swatch videos is I will prime my arm, and then I will do finger and brush swatches of all of the shades. For the matte shades, which I think there are 2 in this palette, I use the rougher number 2 brush. But for the metallic shades, I like to do a finger swatch, a dry brush swatch, and a wet brush swatch. And normally what I use is the rougher 21 brush. I only have 2 of these, and I try to keep one for the dry brush and one for the wet brush swatches if I can. I do have the Sigma switch that I use to remove shadow in between swatches. I do happen to have, as you saw, 2 of the rougher number 2 brushes that I use, so I could, just use one for each shade. I did recently get the rougher number 28 brush, which is designed for shimmers and metallics. It is kind of a version of the rougher number 2, but it's designed more for metallics and that kind of thing. So I just recently did a video where I kind of compared some new brushes to my collection versus some old ones. And I did like the way that the rougher number 28 performed. So I might try that out just to kind of see how it does, but I only have 1 of those. And for the wet brushes, generally I use the Tarte Maracuja Miracle Mist to dampen my brush. It has a nice kind of fine mist to it. For Pat McGrath though, I do have her Intensifies Artistry Wand, which is a product that I think you can apply either before applying metallic shades or on top. This might be more designed for her kind of special shades, I'm not really sure, but I figured I would try out this product as well to kind of see what it does with these shades. So anyway, not including the Pat McGrath wand, that's what I normally do for swatches. This video is a little bit more complicated though, because I do have some shades to compare this new palette to. So I think what I want to do, because I do want to give you kind of a full swatch photo of the entire palette, I think I'll start off by swatching them the way I normally do. And I do have 6 shades to swatch, so hopefully I don't run out of room here. I'm going to use the Smashbox 24-Hour Photo Finish Shadow Primer. And the reason I use primer, by the way, is because I always prime my eyelids, so I feel like priming my arm makes sense to me in terms of trying to get as close an approximation of what the shadows will look like on the eyelids on my arm. I think I'll just swatch the top row and then the bottom row. So I do have some descriptions here in terms of what you can do with these. All right, so Skin Show Divine Glow. It says you can highlight the brow bone or press a shimmering veil of color onto the center of the lid or illuminate the inner corner. And this is a shade that is in the Bronze Seduction palette. The next one is Entrapment. And this one, it says you can contour the eye to add depth and structure. May be used wet or dry as an eyeliner or brow powder. So that's interesting that she specifies that you can use this kind of matte shade wet. And the last one from this row is Sunset Bronze, which, as we've discussed, I think is also called Bronze Venus. And it says you can add a flash of copper bronze molten metallic sparkle to the lids, lash line, outer corner, or entire eye. So let's see how this one does. So I wouldn't say these are the driest formula, but I wouldn't say they're the most like kind of silicone heavy either. So that is Skin Show Divine Glow. That is, what did I say, Entrapment, and this one is Bronze Venus. So that one swatches pretty well. And normally when I do use a primer, I will more often than not set it with either a matte cream shadow or a powder, just to make sure that, you can see this one's kicking up a little bit. Just to make sure that the shadow applies smoothly. So that is Skin Show Divine Glow. So like with matte swatches, using a finger, they don't always, I guess, apply as well as you would like. And I can say off the bat that so far these two shades together, I mean, this one is maybe a tad deeper than I would reach for normally, but having kind of a light shimmery shade and then something kind of matte and neutral in the crease is what I consider kind of my go-to eye look. And you can obviously just use like a highlighter and a bronzer to kind of create a similar effect, especially if you're trying to minimize the number of products you have. So there is some kind of kick up here. Hopefully I should be able to fit these other three on my arm. So this one, that is Extreme Aubergine. It says you can sculpt the crease, socket, and outer corner V of the eye to elongate and accentuate, and then also use on the lash line for smoky definition. This one I think is called Eleganza. This one, it says you can emphasize the lid with luminous platinum rose shimmer to create a soft, smoky eye. And then this last one here was Night Creature. And it says, add rich gem-like shimmer to the lids, lash line, or entire eye for intergalactic effects. So I might have to be a little tighter here in my swatching. Okay, so that one is Night Creature, Eleganza. That's really pretty. And then finally, or I'm sorry, did I say Eleganza? And then that one is Night Creature. All right, so I'll go ahead and use my other Rephr number 2 brush and pick up Extreme Aubergine, I think it was called. I like, I don't know if you can see some of the pigment kind of flying off there. I do like the way that Pat names things, but she sometimes makes it a little bit difficult to remember the names of shades. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to have room for all of the different types of swatches on this one arm. And I always say, you know, when we get into my wrist wrinkles, it's just a different texture there. So that's kind of my first attempt at swatching those shades. Okay, so I've removed those swatches. You can see my arm is a bit red now. So I think from here on out, I'm going to skip the primer step. And I just want to play around a little bit with this new shade. So I will do another finger swatch here. And then this is my dry brush. Pretty similar, actually. And then next up, I think I'll wet a brush. So I have said before that you can either try to pick up pigment on your brush and then wet it, or maybe I'll try and demo that for you. So if you're worried about the integrity of your shadows at all, you can try to kind of load up the brush and then spray it. So that was what I did there. And then I also just wet it again, and I'm going to use that same brush to pick up more product. I think maybe the first example was a tiny bit more opaque, but I think I'm really splitting hairs there. Okay, so I think what I want to do now, I will use this product, which is not really dispensing a lot. Okay, it's just a very slow clicker, I think. Okay, so I'm going to try to apply kind of a generous swatch there. And then I want to see what happens if I just use the dry brush. I think as I'm digging into this product, it is kind of allowing me to pick up more product. So that is what it looks like with the eye wand. And then if I take the same product, I think you're supposed to be able to just like apply it on top. So this is the finger swatch. I think that mostly just succeeded in kind of removing some of the product. And then I think this was the dry brush. Same story really. So I think, you know, this product, I think it's best used on either bare skin or maybe just like a set matte. Those are the different options there. I mean, like I said, I think it's really kind of splitting hairs, the difference in finishes. So I think no matter what option you go for, you should be able to get a pretty opaque shimmer on the lids. I don't think, you know, these types of shades that she does are like, they're not, like I said, her special shades. And for that reason, to be honest, I generally prefer the Natasha Denona metallic formula because she doesn't have such a, you know, kind of dichotomy between what is a special shade and what is just, you know, kind of an ordinary shimmer. Okay, so I am removing swatches with a makeup wipe, so, you know, I'd say my skin is a little damp at this point. So before I compare the Bronze Seduction repeat shades, I thought I would just kind of swatch these again. So these are both finger swatches. And put this one there. So I think I'm still selecting the dry brush here, but they all kind of get mixed together. Okay, so that is going to be a dry swatch. Again, I mean, if you don't like using your fingers for eyeshadow application, it's always nice to have a shadow that will apply well with just a brush. And of course I say that and then go into this one. Some of these shades are a bit darker, and this one appears to be very kind of crumbly as well, if you can see that. So just be aware of that, and if you are concerned about fallout, do your eyes first. All right, so this one, I am picking up product and then applying it. I think, you know, you do get a little bit more opacity with the wet brush than the dry brush. And then wetting the brush and going in to pick up product. Again, I think maybe picking up product and then wetting the brush is giving maybe the best application. Let's see how this shade does. Still kind of crumbly. I think this is bringing out a tiny bit more of the sparkle. Yeah, and when I wet the brush and then, just trying to knock some of it off. When I wet the brush and then went in, it did shear out a bit. Maybe it was just too wet. So yeah, it's interesting. So that's why I like doing these videos, is because it kind of gives you an idea of what the best application method is going to be before you actually go in on the eyes. All right, so applying another kind of good swatch of this product. And I think at this point these brushes are both kind of mixed together. So I'm gonna go in this one. I haven't wet the brush. Yeah, I'd say this one especially, I mean, it's pretty, but I think you want to be careful of fallout. I think that artistry wand did help. I think, you know, in part it might just depend on the type of finish you want. Like, do you want a little bit more sparkle or more full-on sort of metallic effect? So if I can remember, I think this was finger, dry brush, wet brush, picked up and then sprayed and then picked up with a wet brush, and then this was the artistry wand. So yeah, so I think I see the biggest difference. I think honestly wetting the brush gave you more of a sparkly effect than some of the others. All right, and then to swatch this other one using the same product. And again, this is a fairly dry brush. So for me, this is a new shade. I think it's a really pretty one. This one's from the Divine Rose palette, and I can definitely see myself wearing that shade. So again, we have finger, dry brush, wet brush, picked up and then sprayed, wet brush, sprayed and then picked up, and then we have the artistry wand. So definitely don't think you need the artistry wand. Like I said, it might have been more geared towards the special shades, which we don't have any of here. All right, so the good news with this final round of swatches is that 2 of these are matte. I think she did say that one could be used wet. I think that was Trapment. Yeah. I might make an executive decision about that one when we get to it. Okay, so again, unprimed arm. And I guess I will start off with just some finger swatches. So this Bronze Seduction palette, by the way, is a relatively new palette. I picked it up when Pat McGrath was having her, put it over here, when she was having a quote-unquote glitch sale, where things were temporarily 50% off. Okay, so this is the new mini palette, and that is the Mothership. I'm using different fingers here, and the pan is also smaller. You know, I do see a little bit more opacity with the Mothership, but I don't know if that's just because of how much I picked up with my finger. Try and get a nice, relatively clean brush here. I think for this one, I'm just going to go in with what I think, maybe I'll just go in with this So using the number 21 brush, okay, so that wasn't terribly impressive. Again, I am cleaning off my brush in between. So I think the color looks the same. I think the Mothership is just swatching a bit more opaque for whatever reason. I think I'll go ahead and pick up some and dampen it. I'm trying to, like I said, get an equal amount of shadow on the brush. So this one I put off to the side here. So those were both finger swatches. These were both dry brush swatches over the artistry wand, and these were both wet brush swatches. So again, I think the Mothership may be a tad bit more opaque. I did make an effort to get the same amount of pigment. All right, so let's swatch these other two shades. I'm going to go into this one first. All right, so that is a brush swatch. Again, cleaning off my brush. That one seemed to pick up a tad more product. So I don't know if it's just, you know, the pan size is allowing me to pick up more. I think I'll go ahead and do final matte brush swatches. That one seems like it has maybe a tiny bit more red in it. So I don't know if she changed labs for these. These are the minis, and that is the Mothership. I'll just go ahead and swatch on my hand. The finger. I mean, I can see a tiny difference, but I'd say they're pretty close. Yeah, the Mothership just seems to swatch a little better. I mean, I guess I can kind of build up. And again, like I keep saying, like, I don't know if it's just a factor of how well I'm able to get either my finger or my brush into some of these other shades. Okay, so I think I will quickly just try using the Entrapment shade as an eyeliner or brow product. So I have this Sigma small angle E65 brush, and I'll just go ahead and spray that and go into the shade. Hopefully not create hard pan. Just be honest, I'm not sure what wetting the shade really does. Like if I kind of wipe it off so it's mostly dry. I mean, maybe it'll take a little bit more time to kind of build up. But it doesn't really change the intensity really. If I go into the Mothership, the same shade. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I guess it's nice that she's trying to give you some ideas for how to use this palette, but I don't think wetting a brush really does anything for you with that shade. All right, so you can kind of see some of the fallout here, and just to give you an idea of what the shades look like after swatching. So, would I recommend this palette? So I would recommend this if you have wanted to try out some Pat McGrath shadows, but they've all been too expensive and out of your price point. I think it's a really cute little palette. It's a good way to try it. As you saw, like I think there were some maybe subtle differences. This palette is also made in Italy, so I don't have any reason to believe that Pat McGrath, you know, tried to find a cheaper lab, for example, to make this product. And because she is reusing shades from previous palettes, I think it would be more apparent if she sacrificed the quality of the formula. I think you are getting a very solid Pat McGrath formula in this palette. And if you had been wanting to try out the Bronze Seduction palette, obviously you're getting 3 out of 10 shades there. So you're getting a few, but not the majority. And like I said, you are missing out on, you know, these types of shades, which everyone kind of goes gaga for. So I guess just know kind of what you're getting, but you are also saving like $100. So there's that. So if you like this color story, just be aware it is a pretty small palette, but I think it's a cute one. And it's possible that I could still be around at Sephora during the fall VIB sale, but I have no way of knowing for sure. If this palette were on the Pat McGrath website, I would say, as annoying and frustrating as it can be to order from Pat McGrath, you know, you could get an even better price, possibly purchasing it from her, because she'll have 30% off sales and that kind of thing fairly frequently. But for right now, I think it's only available on Sephora. So yeah, so I think this is great if you like the color story, if you don't mind it being small, and you've been kind of waiting for an opportunity to try Pat McGrath. I think it's also great if you are a fan of Pat McGrath, and maybe even if you have like the Bronze Seduction palette. Like I mentioned, this shade here is from Divine Rose 2, so you'd be getting 1 out of 10 shades from that palette. And this is Subversive, so you're getting 1 out of 10 shades from that one. I think this shade, honestly, was the most difficult to use in terms of swatching, and color-wise, it's also a shade that I am the least likely to reach for. So that doesn't really do anything for me. I do have the original Divine Rose, but I don't have the Divine Rose 2, so that is a new shade for me. And if you do have all of the motherships, or at least the ones that are represented in this palette, I don't think this shade here is anything special enough where you actually need to buy this mini. You probably have, you know, a good number of palettes in your collection that will give you some kind of bronzy, coppery shimmer like that. Like, I don't think this is a very unique shade at all. But yeah, if you do like Pat McGrath's formula and you would find this like a useful little mini to take traveling or whatever, like I think it could be a good thing to pick up if you know you want to have some Pat McGrath shadows when you travel. And like I said, I can get a pretty, you know, either neutral bronzy look, or I can get, you know, something a little bit purplier. I think, you know, this is a good combination of shades. It doesn't have a matte cream like I mentioned I use a lot, but I can just use a setting powder to kind of set primer and blend out edges and that kind of thing. So Yeah, so I'm pretty happy I picked this up. Let me know if you guys are interested in it and if you plan to purchase. I hope you will subscribe if you haven't already, if you enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.